I don't know if Microsoft is jamming a update down my throat or not here. It's usually what happens. There we go. Okay, let's start it back here. Well, it says we're live. All right. That was something that the computer did not tell me. So thank you, everybody, for standing here and looking at the dead air of me looking at my computer like an idiot. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at criticalblast.com. And with us today, we have Madison Young, who is the host of a brand new series on Revry TV. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Revry. I think it's supposed to be like a reverie. But your new series is Submission Possible. Madison, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I guess I'd like to know first how you got the idea to do this. It's basically a dine-in, drive-ins and dives kind of show from a sexual perspective.
Yeah, I guess kind of. I was thinking a little bit more Anthony Bourdain, but so yeah. I mean, I've been in the kink scene for about 20 years now and have traveled all around the world teaching folks about sex and sexuality and kink and fetish. And I love to travel. I love to meet and connect with different kink and queer communities all over the world. And so really putting this show together was a dream. It was so many of my films and books and projects, they come to me kind of in a meditative state. And when I'm tapping into my subconscious, and I had this vision for this show, the name, and I just saw the whole first season kind of wisp before me, and I was like, okay, I need to make that happen. So yeah, I mean, it really just comes out of a desire to connect with different people and different communities and different cultures and different cities, because every city's kink culture, it has things that are similar, but it also has things that are very different, and a different personality, something that makes it really unique to that particular city and that community. And getting to know those different people and connect with those different people and collaborate is one of my greatest joys in life. So I like to do that in theater or in events or curation. And filmmaking is just a really wonderful way to do that, to bring together kick-ass, beautiful people that are in front of the camera and behind the camera and telling our stories. So, that visibility really matters, being able to see ourselves on camera.
It really is a very creative title, and I'm surprised that some BDSM show hasn't taken it by now, because it's just screaming to go out there and be a title of a show. So well done on that. Sexuality is a basic human. It's a basic life drive. It's not just in humans. We've been doing it for time immemorial, and yet it seems that this most basic of instinct is something that we learn more and more about, particularly in this age of internet now, where information is flowing so freely with the force of a fire hose, that we're finding out that, hey, that there's more to it than maybe what we've been doing in our little home. You've been in the culture for a while. Are you still discovering things that surprise you and interest you or shock you or whatever?
Absolutely. I think that I resonate with a lot of what you're saying there, and I totally agree. And it's so much of the emphasis for why I create the work that I create, and why I've dedicated my life to creating media that smashes sexual stigma, is that it is such a very basic, primal experience. We are born. We're born. We eat. We shit. We fuck. We die. And yet, how much stigma and shame do we have? Even around birth, right? There's still there's so much politics. I'm working on a documentary as well on birth and on death. Again, having open conversations around death. People have a lot of feelings around that, and around sex. People have tons of fear, and then of course capitalism just gloms onto that fear, and then and has us purchase all of these things, making us feel insecure about our bodies. So having safe, open space where we can actually talk about sex and sexuality and kink, it's fairly rare. And I think we're seeing more of those kind of virtual spaces now. But having that safe space held is really important. And one of the ways that we can do that is through media, and is through when I'm able to model online or on a series how we have open, non-stigmatized, non-fear-based conversations where we're just lounging around and talking about, sex as another aspect of our lives, and delving in deeper with curiosity, that models for others how to do the same and how to articulate their own desires and their own fantasies without fear and shame.
Now, one of the things I did take away from, reviewing the pilot episode of Submission Possible is that it really is talking about the issues and sitting down and exploring them from a cerebral state.
Right.
There's not the graphic, here's how to kind of thing. And I guess with Paraphilia, that's apt, because it really is more of a what's happening in your mind while you're still performing the basic id of an action. Is that going to be the ongoing theme, or is there going to be more physicality to some of this? And just to lay the groundwork for the people coming in here, the first episode that you talk about is things like spectrophilia, and potions. Exactly, stuff where you wouldn't even be able to see what is going on in the thought process anyway, because they're ghosts.
Right. Well, in the show, we show like a seance, and we show creating a disrobing potion and tarot. But, so much of sex is cerebral and energetic. And one of the things that I want to do with this series that's so important for me is that often, I've been the subject of many sex documentaries. I've been interviewed for many of them, and I would say in pretty much all of them, I have felt othered. I always feel othered, and what I mean by that is that I am there to create a spectacle and show how ridiculous or out there submission or ecosexuality or any of these things are. What I'm doing is normalizing kinks and fetishes. So we will definitely see more intense things like hook suspensions or piercings. But when you see it, it's going to have a lot of the background behind it. You're going to see a lot of why it is so sacred. You're going to see breathing. You're going to see the beauty in it and the intimacy in it and what is happening energetically and internally, not an othering or a spectacle of, look, this person is being whipped so hard. I have done the most extreme things out there. I have been hogtied, at the bottom of a swimming pool. I have been a human chandelier. I have been strung up by my elbows. I can do all of that. That's not so exciting to me anymore. The really exciting stuff, I think, is what's going on inside. And for us to know what's going on inside, we have to have those nice in-depth conversations and see the why behind it and the doorway that opens when we're how we transcend when we're in these spaces,
Sure.
Fakir Musafar, he recently passed away a couple of years ago, but he was truly a pioneer in body modification and hook suspension and in the fetish scene. And he said that the body was the doorway to the soul. And, and I feel like that's always really resonated with me, the sacred art of kink.
Now, I can imagine you mentioned how you're invited onto sex documentaries and it's always for the spectacle. I've seen these. Oh, hello. We got linked out there. where I have to change my Brady Bunch vision now to look this way for you. Where you have, hey, we've got 2 psychologists on here. We've got a medical doctor. And we have the actress who's so I can imagine that's got to be kind of a demeaning kind of thing, or like you said, the spectacle, and yet you still go. So bravo for that. Somebody's giving representation who's actually got experience in the things that the doctors are talking about.
Right. Well, and people love to put you into a single box of like adult film performer, but okay, yes, I'm also an author and a certified sex educator and a mother. Look at that. We can be many things at the same time. And I think that's one of the things that we really delve into with this show and with and really in much of my work is showing the complexity of the human condition. Who we are as humans is flawed and beautiful and complex, and those intricacies are what make us so beautiful and connected to one another.
Now, one of the things that I've always been curious kind of about is why so much of the kink scene, and not all of it, but so much of it is closer to death than it is to life. Now we're talking about things that are painful, things like the lashing or the whipping, or things that bring about asphyxiation like the choking or the extreme tickling or things like that. What is the psychological connection between feeling like you're getting close to death and having the gratification of the sexual experience?
Well, I mean, we could also say that makes us closer to birth, right? I mean, yeah. I don't know. I pushed a baby out of my vagina without even an Advil, and I wouldn't even call that pain, but it is intense sensation, And I wouldn't call being lashed with a whip consensually pain, but intense sensation. And I think that, as a masochist, something that it's very much energy work. It's using our breath to move energy through our body, and how we perceive touch. You know, when we surrender and open ourselves up to any touch, whether it's light or hard, and if it's a welcome touch, then we're able to like really fully experience it and move it through our body and exhale it out. And that person can, you know, gift us that touch with love, with compassion, with intimacy, with gratitude. You can feel any of those things. And I teach people how to do that, you know, how to exhale with the whip, how to receive it, and how to, you know, breathe that in and exhale back out to that person, gratitude, love, so that it becomes cyclical, because it's a connection. It's not just, you know, one person is giving, the other person is passive, which I think is sometimes misunderstood.
Right, the top and the bottom, or the topping from the bottom, all that kind of relationship, that power exchange that we're discussing.
But the things you were talking about are all like physical sensations, right? And that's like one aspect of BDSM, because there's also like the psychological aspect. But any sensation, whether it is like the tickling or the light touch, or heavy pain or constriction or whatever, it's our body experiencing that sensation, and what we do with it, you know, like what do we do with that energy? So it's not necessarily like extreme confinement or tight rope bondage. To me feels like a hug. That doesn't feel like death. You know, it feels like I'm in the tightest bear hug possible. So I think that people perceive touch in different ways. In the same way that someone likes either a light massage or a really heavy, like you're stomping on their back kind of massage, you know? Right. We all like different kinds of touch.
Have you come across any information that explains what drives a person toward one particular paraphilia over another? I mean, is it past experiences that have like triggered something, or people just born with a predilection towards something?
You know, I think it's a combination of many different things. Sometimes there is, sometimes it can be an experience or something that psychologically you feel like maybe it feels safe to be a puppy, that, you know, that you have warm, fun feelings of giving up your personhood in order to become an animal that's loved and cared for, you know. And there's a part of you that really wants to give that up and be in a safe container where you can just be petted and be simple and taken care of. And I think that all of us kind of have that in us, right? So that might come out as wanting to be a little, like a little boy or a little girl, or puppy or a kitten, or you might have something inside of you that's like, I have a desire to take care of a nurturing part of myself that feels very fulfilled if I'm nurturing and caring and in this single role. And when we're in this container that we build together within kink, and we build that consensual container together, you can step into that role, and then you can leave everything else aside, you know, and just be in that simple role of that dynamic. And I think that, again, in a psychological way is going, you know, it goes back to surrender, being able to surrender to a particular role. And, you know, if it's like shoes or rope, for me, rope is a big fetish for me. And I have very fond memories of of rope when I was younger, working in landscaping and the smell of fallen leaves. And it's a scent and a feeling of security and love.
Okay. I can understand that. There's, that's the objectification aspect of the paraphilia. There's the role that you want to play, like you said, being a little or being a puppy, and then there's the actual object like a rope or the feather or anything like that. Long time ago, I ended up doing a research article on people who fetishized superheroes, because we are kind of by and large a comic book site that also branches into pop culture and other aspects of media. And I found, that there were these people who were doing superhero fetish videos. And as I dug further into that, what I learned was that, people think of somebody has a this fetish or somebody has a that fetish, and it keeps it in the singular aspect of it. What I found is that the fetishes are almost like ingredients, not necessarily the entire recipe. And you can mix and match, and people do mix and match from these kind of things. For instance, there, if you have, like, people had fetishes for clowns, but also for cake sitting, which was a new one on me. I got that one from the doctor I interviewed. I found there was a website called the Legion of Super Ticklish Heroes, where they just like to see these powerful characters brought down by something so silly and simple. Do you find a lot of that where it's like, well, yes, I do A, but I have to mix it with B and a little bit of C?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that we're very complex beings. So, I think it depends on where people might be in their journey. But yeah, in the same way that maybe a vanilla individual doesn't just like to have their cock sucked, they also like to have their balls tickled, whatever, it's like people can enjoy more than one thing. I mean, I feel like I have an enormous list of different things that I enjoy. But at the same time, I know when I say 20 years ago, when I was first getting into the scene, I knew that I liked very intense sensation, and I liked things like whips and canes, but I learned not to tell every director that I worked with that I loved whips, because some people are better at wielding a whip than others. So, and now that I'm approaching 40, I'm very particular. I've gotten with who is gifting the energy, what our dynamic is. When I was 20 years old, I was like, whoever wants, go for it. I was much more open to experiencing all the things gifted by anyone.
I'm 53. We heal a lot slower now.
Well, yeah, I mean, less on the healing and just like more on the energy that is, I feel like when I was younger and new at the experience, it was much more just about me and isolating the sensation. And now for me, it's much more about the connection with the person and the energy that they're gifting. So if someone's gifting me energy with a whip, I want it to be someone that I'm really connected with.
All right. How open is Revry to what it can show and will show during your series? I mean, you're in some very, very touchy areas where optics are sometimes going to be necessary to communicate what's being done here. There's no other way to say this other than, are there going to be naked people on the show? Is the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really had that conversation. And it hasn't come up so far. I mean, I have been kind of keeping to traditional TV standards of shooting things soft. So we might shoot there might be nipples, but not genitalia. And I don't know if we'll need to block out nipples or not. So okay. I think we'll see on that. But for me, it's going to be much more about whether I'm directing an erotic film or a television series. It's about the subject and what their comfortability is, what they're wanting to share, working with them on that, and so that it's coming from an authentic place. And if the scene benefits and they benefit from being naked, then we'll shoot them in such a way that it works for the show. But I'm not going, but I don't, but it's definitely it's not porn. So it won't be shot in a pornographic way. Okay.
Are there any, well, I know there are some, so let's just skip that. When people are wanting to engage in something that might be dangerous, especially for their first time, because they're thinking, I would really like to try X or Y. What is the best advice to give them as to how to do something safely, or maybe not do it at all?
Yeah. I think that the thing that is the most unsafe is stigma and shame, really. Like if someone is feeling, that's why these conversations are so important, because when someone is feeling a lot of shame about the desires that they have, it's harder for them. They'll feel isolated and have a harder time reaching out to find other people that are a resource. And it's important for us to seek education first. So, so read books, read books that are not fiction. There is such a wonderful resource of different educators out there, and sex coaches out there, and kink coaches, and we're all available virtually. So you can reach out to folks virtually. You can have, even now in COVID-19, in our quarantine situation, there are even virtual DOMs doing sessions. But, isolating and doing things alone is sometimes, especially if it's like edge play, I highly recommend not doing it. If you're exploring something totally on your own, read up about it, watch videos about it, like educational videos about it, and start slow. So I would say those are the things to do. If you're engaging in edge play, you really need to have another professional there. You need to have someone else there to help guide you, and have the proper safety precautions in place. And it's going to vary what your safety precautions are depending on what you're doing.
Right. All right. So wrapping up here, what can we expect to see on the rest of this first season of Submission Possible?
Well, it's very interesting because so much of it is being built right now. The show was brought on right as we were going into quarantine. So with it being a travel show, much of what was slotted for the first season is I'm having to kind of reconsider much of it. The next episode will be going into production in the next few weeks. And I'm working on the script right now on that and casting on that. And that is on quarantine. So how the kink and queer community are adapting to quarantine. And then I will, I plan to hit many international destinations, but we'll be sticking pretty domestic this first season, and probably mostly on the West Coast and where I can road trip to, because flying doesn't quite feel safe yet.
I understand that. All right. Madison, we thank you very much for being on the show today. For those who are watching, we're talking with Madison Young, the host of Submission Possible, which is on Revry TV. The link is in the description below. If you're of an open mind and you'd like to learn a little bit about this thing we do as human beings, we encourage you to click on it. Madison, thank you again for coming. We really do appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Best
Take
of luck
care.
on the show.
Thank you. Bye.